Hello and welcome to another edition of Digital Transformation Survivors. This is the podcast where we talk to digital leaders about their experience and strategies for managing complex web estates with many different customer segments and audience segments. And I'm very happy to welcome today Alessandra Canavesi, who is the head of digital marketing and customer experience for AXA IM Alts, which is AXA investment management and the alternative products in that category. So as a leader for AXA, Alessandra manages really dispersed multicultural teams based all over the place in various geographies. And she brings a unique perspective to organizational change and really the human element of managing teams that are engaged in digital transformation. So very exciting conversation today. So Alessandra, welcome. How are you doing this morning?
I'm very well, thank you, Julian. I'm very happy to be here with you today.
Super. So let's kick off. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your role. I mean, I just tried to explain what AXA IM Alts is very poorly, but if you could give us the canonical description of AXA IM Alts, that would be great.
Of course, no, you did a great job in very few words. So AXA Investment Managers Alts is an asset management company that is focused on alternative investments. Alternative investments are all the non-traditional investments. So we are talking about real estate, infrastructure, private equity, impact investing, credit products. We operate into the sophisticated investment space. So people who normally access our products are the likes of pension funds that represent people like us at the end of the day, insurance companies that traditionally look at very kind of long-term investments. We have family offices who are sophisticated investors managing the fortunes of families of ultra net worth individuals, and then a growing offering for mass affluent and high net worth individuals. This is happening because in the ever-evolving world of landscape of investments, there is increased appetite for alternative investments because they offer, in simple words, access to products that are not traditionally available to the wider market and can offer better returns. I'm probably slightly oversimplifying here, but I'm also trying to make it accessible for someone who might be listening and might be working in a completely different industry. All to say, behind the sophisticated investors that are my primary audience, there are often people, as you can imagine, and they also represent the interest and the retirement goals of people like us at the end of the day.
And so thank you for giving that very accessible explanation for me. So that's really helped me to understand. And it strikes me that you've mentioned a number of very different types of investment vehicle there. So I'm assuming that each one of those different types of investment vehicle, they've each got their own unique audience with their own intents and needs, or is there a lot of crossover between those audiences?
It's a yes and no question. So I would say if you are talking with sophisticated investors, they normally have an allocation, for example, to real estate. This is one asset class that is all times favorite and also from a retail perspective has always gathered quite a lot of interest. where we have seen an evolution, for example, crossing the boundaries between the real estate and the infrastructure world. Yes, so there is a lot of synergies, and often there are also blurred lines between the two asset classes, because what is real estate and what is infrastructure and data center, it's a wonderful example of this, where you see it appears in some portfolios as something that falls into the infrastructure bucket, and in other cases is real estate. So we see synergies in this respect. We definitely see them across also all the alternative credit bucket. And we, at the end of the day, it's also our job to take clients on a journey. And if they are investing with us on a particular product, it's our job to showcase also the benefit of branching out. In some cases, this is something that is absolutely possible, because if you're talking to different size and types of investors, they might be agnostic and they might be responsible for the full asset allocation. In other cases, especially if you're talking to the very large, sophisticated, I use pension funds as an example, they have dedicated team who are real expert in a particular asset class. And sometimes they're also the clients we like to work with the most, because they really challenge us. They are real expert, and they are really relationship where our investment teams have a dialogue between peers that sometimes delivers the best results.
So there's some interesting keywords to pick up on there. So sophisticated, experts, it's a peer-to-peer conversation. So it feels like there's a very high level of knowledge and intent that your audience is bringing to the conversation with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why we also have, a team of experts on the investment side, but also on the content side. Because if I think about the marketing spectrum and my side of the coin, it's also very important that we always deliver to this sophisticated audience content through blogs, white papers, events, webinars, you name it, that is relevant for them. It's pitched at the right level, it's timely, and provides insight that they cannot find somewhere else. So it's challenging in a nutshell.
I can imagine. I really can imagine. It's a very technical subject, and one that you have to perform to a very high level to satisfy that audience. No doubt.
Yeah, and where is also interesting, and again, this is part of the job where my team needs to have a very open and constructive dialogue with all the other different teams, from the investment team to the sales team, is also to understand whenever we produce a piece of marketing, whether we want to use a more of a technical angle or an educational one. And that is often triggered by the sort of target audience identified for a specific product, or if we have a new product that we're bringing to the market. But also sometimes it's also triggered by the geography that we are targeting. Some countries, and again, I'm using two real life examples. The Nordics are very sophisticated. I'm Italian, so I can say this. Italy sometimes it's a little bit behind the curve, and the audience we are talking to needs to be educated also, because they often access these products through intermediaries, through the banks. So there is a higher level of education and a different journey we need to take clients on.
So that's really fascinating. But we're going to kind of dig into those geographical elements in a moment, because I think that's a really interesting area. But before we do, I mean, tell us about your role. So where do you fit within this conversation, and what are your objectives in trying to support it?
So my role is a never boring role. That's how I would call it. I would define myself as a bit of a omnivert marketeer. So I don't have a specialism in a particular part of marketing. Might be digital or content, but I would say I can use a full marketing toolkit in a way. My role, it's essentially two things: defining the overall marketing strategy that has got a very high component of digital, and to support in the most effective and commercial way the sales objectives of my company. And for sales, in this case, we're talking about raising capital from the clients I just described. I manage a dispersed team across several geographies. We have, as a business, 17 offices across the world, of which 13 are based in Europe. And I take care of the full spectrum, I would say. My role has also evolved, interestingly, from being originally more focused on product and corporate marketing, now encompasses a variety of activities. One very big component is, of course, protecting the brand and the visibility of our company, is to position the key thought leaders across events or opportunities where we can reach clients. It's about pushing our content across the various channels, delivering campaigns that are focused on a specific product, maintain the digital infrastructure, lead on new initiatives that are client-centric. Might it be, integrating a particular functionality into the digital infrastructure, and ultimately also deliver our wide program of events, which between proprietary sponsored and speaking slots reach about 100 activities a year. So it's, as I said, is a never boring job.
Never boring. That's a lot of events. It's a lot of activity to be managing. It sounds quite exciting. It's quite high adrenaline by the sound of it?
Well, it depends. It goes in waves, to be honest. There are some periods of the year that are very, very intense. Others, like now, for example, August is a wonderful time to, regroup, think about, plan, and have a bit of breathing time.
So what does that, you mentioned the I guess the digital infrastructure, and what does that look like? And how do you, I guess, what channels do you focus on, and what purposes do you use those different channels for? And I guess some of those might be your own channels, and others might be public channels that you're using, so social channels and so on. But how do you use those different channels in your communications?
So, being part of the AXA ecosystem, I would say, I'm lucky enough to being able to leverage the broader infrastructure and all the larger digital initiatives from the parent company, let's say. Also because, as I mentioned at the beginning, and sorry to get back a second, I look after the alternative side. There is another side of the business that looks after the fixed income investments. So I leverage a lot of what happens on what is called AXA IM core side. For example, when there is an implementation regarding a new website, a new functionality, all the technical part, I am in the lucky position to not having to drive that, but leveraging the best work done by someone else. When it comes to, on the other hand, the channels, there has been a lot of work and a lot of effort in integrating the various channels that we work across. And this is a conversation that I hear very often across several other marketeers across various segments, industries, and so on. Again, sending the message out there, it's a work in progress, because nobody has got it right and perfect, but it's a continuous journey. So I'm talking about the integration between the CRM database, which relies extensively not only on the work of marketing, but also on the work of sales, the integration with the e-communication system. And again, I can be technical here or not, but we use a tool called Eloqua that communicates with our CRM database. It's also analytics, so we can see, as everybody else, the funnel and the journey that our client, the way our clients consume and digest content that we proactively push, but also what they actually look on our website. And there are also some specific client initiatives available only for existing clients to access their investments and have everything in one place through a dedicated client portal, which is highly customized.
Yeah. So you use the magic word funnel there. So what different types of communications are you using at different stages on that funnel?
I would say there isn't one size fits all. It really depends on, for example, if we have a specific campaign, but I don't think I'm doing anything groundbreaking here. Normally, when it comes to, classic example is the launch of a fund or the fundraising campaign. We tend to work on different initiatives and try to work on them in synergy with each other. Also, not just focusing on a big burst and a big bang in one specific place, but stagger activities for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, because again, this is a business focus on long term, and trust takes a lot of time to be built.
So it's continuous, and it's almost like an always on approach to generate that.
I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. There are, if I think about my kind of year plan, there are a number of activities that are meant to run throughout the year. There are also activities where we focus on a specific launch date or month, and then let's call it top up across the calendar to reignite interest and rebound on something that was done maybe 3 months beforehand. And in terms of the channels, the ones I just mentioned are definitely utilized, and the other powerful ally is LinkedIn, which in our industry is the only social media platform that you are essentially allowed to use. And again, it's through target campaigns, corporate accounts, but also influencers' profile are the 3 key tools that we utilize when talking about LinkedIn.
So you mentioned, just going back to that multicultural aspect. So you're operating, you have 17, if I remember correctly, 17 different offices, but you're obviously operating in a much greater number of different markets. How do you manage those cultural differences, and how do you adjust or recalibrate your messaging across all those different communities? That's mind-boggling.
Look, we are lucky enough that 90% of our communication is all in English, for the reason I mentioned at the beginning. This audience speaks English. Having said that, there are a lot of very, very different nuances according to each country. Now, for me now comes as a bit of a second nature, because I've been working for nearly 20 years in multicultural global teams. I was very lucky always to work for multinational companies, often working in a global function. So it's very much something that I feel like is ingrained in my mindset. But it's complex because you have to marry up multiple geographies. Each one has its own culture, regulatory, and user experience nuances, if you see what I mean. Mm-hmm. So you have on one side the bigger framework, and on the other hand, you also have the people component. Now, my teams are mainly based in Europe, between London, Paris, Frankfurt, and Switzerland. But the multicultural nuances are very, very important. So whenever you approach any geographies, you need to be mindful, you need to be empathic. You also, coming from a center perspective, you really need to be adaptable. And I think you also need to balance between implementing global consistencies, but at the same time not crush the local customization. So it's a fine balance. The important word I would say is probably you need to be agile and responsive. You also need to be, again, always very a listener before anything else. Like, you need to leverage on the local knowledge. You need to leverage first listen what the people on the ground feel like is important to them, and then come with the global approach. At least this is a bit of my kind of practical take on it.
That's really interesting. So, I mean, you're starting from that position of really trying to understand first before you're engaging with the market. So, what are you listening for? How do you build up when you're looking at a geography? How do you build up that that mental map of how it works and what its like drivers might be? How do you get under the skin of that?
I would say, first of all, I try to gather and research as much as possible. So I probably already come to that meeting already with some ideas, and in some respects some bias as well. Let's be honest about it. But I also try to set that on one side and ask as many questions, and really try to understand also the objectives and the goals of the stakeholder I'm working with in that particular market. And I just ask a lot of questions, and I also tend to, and again, this is a bit of my management style, try to empower, let people lead, because I'm also very aware that the different nuances are often what really enables you to get under the skin of your customers. So a good example of this is, for example, the Dutch market or the German market, where people speak impeccable English, but they still love the fact that they can speak German, they can speak Dutch, they can receive an email in their local language, because it really makes them feel looked after in some respect.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's that you mentioned the word empathy. I mean, that's where you get to understand the things that people care about, and although you can reach them in English, that ability to find like other ways to resonate with them is really key. So, do you go looking for those things that are going to really help to build that empathy, and how do you find them? Is that your knowledge, or your kind of your gut feeling? Is it or is it
it's a mix of knowledge. Yeah, I would say knowledge acquired throughout the years, but also is to establish good relationship with my colleagues on the ground, and you do that by talking to them, going and seeing them. Try to be close to them as much as possible. But there are also other side of the coins of this, like what I sometimes, this sounds like an anecdote, but is not. On the other hand, there are other geographies like Italy or Spain, where on the other hand, they love receiving communication in English, because it makes them feel elevated, makes them feel like, okay, you are essentially recognizing that I am sophisticated and I can understand this communication in English, so you make me feel like part of the inner circle. So yeah, it's interesting also to leverage on these different nuances.
So you've developed that incredible kind of insight, and I guess that that ability to like intuit what will work and what won't, from that empathy point of view. How do you, let's talk a little bit about the teams that you lead. How do you build that culture? How do you promote that way of seeing the world and all these different geographies? How do you promote that across your team?
It's a journey. I would say. I also think we are now at a very interesting point in time in terms of history or history of the workplace, where we have under one roof a lot of different generations. And I work with, again, people from all over the world, of course, because being based in London, this is one of the great benefits of that, but also there are a lot of intergenerational there is a lot of intergenerational representation. So I think one of my kind of leading principle is try to leverage on the agility, the innovation that the younger talent brings to the table, but also marry that with the strength, the experience of the more seasoned professionals. One thing I mentioned earlier, and I think remains a leading principle for me, is very much listen first. So listening in leadership is very, very important, and making sure that different voices are heard around the table. Now, having said that, the recipe is not perfect. People evolve, people change, they move on. Sometimes they move to a different job, sometimes they stay in the company. But for me, it's paramount to have a team that feel like their voice can be heard, that they feel like they can develop within the job, and also they can learn. I think this is like one thing that I personally thrive on a lot. The ability to be hungry for something new that you didn't know before, that is a challenge, but also offering the same opportunity to people working in my team is important in that way as well.
But this team is dispersed across 17 different offices. So how do you, what techniques have you developed to create that common culture?
So the wider team across 17 offices are they're not my direct reports. These are people working in sales who are present on the ground. My team, luckily, it's only dispersed across Europe.
Yes,
So
okay.
it's a lot easier. Yeah. No, exactly. We are only talking about London, Paris, Frankfurt. So it's a lot more manageable. I think we do what most people do. We tend to do like a large team meeting, normally every Monday, and then I have regular check-ins with like subgroups within my team to make sure that we have plenty of opportunities to check in with each other in a also agile and time-effective way, because I'm very mindful about how to manage my time. I think sometimes it's a lot easier to, have a list of things to discuss as opposed to calling me 10 times a week, each of which takes 10 minutes, whilst if we go through a list in 20 minutes, that can be done very effectively. So there are different techniques. Of course, I also try to see some of the ones who are not in London with me on a regular basis, which helps. For what is concerning also the other salespeople, we luckily always have at least once a year an offsite when we all get together for a couple of days. And there are activities like team building that turn out to be very effective. And also there are other like ad hoc opportunities to actually see each other. Might it be events or visiting various offices. So we still give a lot of importance to interaction and face-to-face time.
Yeah, it's that human element is still as critical as it's ever been, isn't it? And we talked a little bit there about that kind of multi-generational aspect. So there's a new generation coming into the workforce now. How are things changing for them, do you think, compared to what it was like when you came into the sector, and you started to learn? What are the different challenges that they have, and how do you support this new generation coming in?
But they are, if I was a digital native, they are even more digital native. They are, and these days, they are ChatGPT native almost. So
Yes.
I think, first of all, to give people credit, I have seen a fantastic cohort of people coming through the door, either fresh out of uni, or we also have a program that enables students to spend the third year of their university course with us and then go back and complete their course. And we also recruited from this pool of talent. So again, I probably speak from a very privileged position. These are students who are highly motivated and that they have demonstrated that they wanted to do this. I support them in the same way as I support everybody else. Probably there is a little bit, obviously, different line management style when it comes to more junior employees, where things needs to be a lot more hands-on. I would like to live in a place where I empower everybody and everybody can be self-managed and project manager of their own tasks. But I also learn through having had some coaching as well, how you need to adopt a different style of leadership, depending if you're managing experienced staff or more junior entry level. One way of doing it is also to empower people who are like in middle management and give them the opportunity to actually take responsibility for that. But if I can think about, in a nutshell, what I always try to teach to the less experienced staff is making sure that you achieve a good work-life balance. I never give people something to do because it fits my ego. If it needs to be done, is for the clients. I would never want for them to eat into their out of office hours time. I don't think it's a good example, and I'm afraid to say when I started, there was very much a FaceTime culture. There was a culture of being present at the office and being there until late to demonstrate your value. I believe in what gets done, not how long it takes for it to get it done. So, and in this respect, I'm also like a big advocate of finding your passions and your interest outside the office. But at the same time, I want to make sure that they can bring their true self to the office and feel comfortable to express who they really are. So I hope I answer your question. I could speak about this for a very, very long time.
Beautifully, and I think from the way you describe that, I can sense that like each new person that you meet, you're really trying to understand that person as an individual, and to find the way that to support them in the best, and to, I guess, adapt your own management style to their needs.
Yeah, and I would say a couple of other things. One is I've been very lucky to be supported in my management journey. Again, people think managing it's an easy job. Can be, but equally cannot be. And the company has been very supportive in this respect, providing executive courses and coaching to help us. And on the other hand, I'm also part of a mentoring program, which I hope is going to be as useful for the mentee as it is for me. That also enables me to put in action additional skill set and potentially also helping a younger person in this particular case with the development of their career and achieving their goals.
So that that makes complete sense, and I can get a picture of how you're using the structure and the facilities around you to help support the team in their journey, but you're also bringing a lot of your own approaches to it as well. So you mentioned, as part of that, you mentioned that like one feature of the generation that's coming in to the workplace now is they're not just the fact they're digital natives, but they're artificial intelligence natives as well. And I think I have to commend you. We've been very successful in getting 34 minutes into our conversation. We haven't mentioned AI yet, so that's got to be a record. Well done. So but it's changing everything, isn't it, for everybody in so many different types of way. How is it affecting your workplace and the work that you're doing? And I guess, like, the next question on from that is, how do you see that changing the behavior of your audiences? Are you seeing that turning up now in your customer communications?
So let's maybe start with this one, because it's in some respects simpler. Yes, the expectations are higher. It's very, very, very simple. Like you as a user are now interfacing with everything that is 10 times better than it was only a few years ago. So the same level of service, customer support, interaction, speed that you have with your bank or your phone or whatever, you also expect to see the same in this world. And I think as an industry, we have been telling a bit of a lie, or been hiding behind, we deal with sophisticated investors. We still rely on PDFs for no, there is something better. So that's one side. When I think about my team over the past few years, so AI has been something I've been fascinated and passionate about. I wouldn't say way before it became mainstream, but I would like to say a few months before it became mainstream. And I always try to encourage people in my team to actually use it as much as possible, because I was also very interested in seeing what their view was. Like, I literally said to them, play with it and see what is the result, and use it to be slightly experimental about a specific task that I have assigned to you. And it's been also interesting to see, like, over like a couple of years ago, that again, these students doing the 1 year placement, they were like, we use it all the time at university when we need to prepare essays and so on. Now, I think I always have the impression that I'm lagging behind. Like, this is my current mindset. When it comes to AI, I feel like whenever I master something, there is something new coming in. We have been adopting it for quite a while. It's been over a year, and the tools that we are getting are becoming, I would say, more, they're becoming more accessible, because we started a trial within the company, within a small group, and I'm, of course, talking about digital. I'm part of the working groups leading on this. But also, I'm more interested in also using it on the strategic side, not just help me tidy up this email or translate this presentation, but also, the building specific agents to meet specific needs. And this is also part of the job that we're doing with the task force that has been created internally. So that part really fascinates me. The other part that also fascinates me is the philosophical side, but this is probably for a different conversation. And in a nutshell, I really don't think there is any shame in using AI. Quite the opposite. I sometimes still see from various sources communication, and this should have been AI proofed. There is no reason why a company should send something out like this.
Yeah. So it's a powerful tool. I mean, you're not seeing it as being a replacement. You're seeing it as being something which supports people to improve, to I guess do more, to reach further. It's not a replacement. It's an enhancement.
Yeah, absolutely. Saves time. But honestly, having been using it for quite a few months now, it's something I couldn't live without.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible, isn't it? That we're all absolutely hooked, aren't we, in everything that we do?
Yeah, and the feeling is mutual, because whenever I speak to other friends, families in similar jobs, they were like, I cannot go back to take meeting notes. I cannot go back to going to a translation agency to translate these 25 slides and charge me 2.5K when, I can do it with Copilot Pro and then spend half an hour proofreading it at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a revolutionary change, isn't it? Absolute revolutionary change. And then the next bit, that was the slightly easier bit of the conversation. The harder bit is, how do you see it affecting your customers' behaviors, your audience behaviors? Are you seeing the use of AI turning up in how people interact with you and your communications?
I might be wrong, but at the moment I would say not yet, in the sense that I think they definitely have higher expectations. But on the other hand, one thing that they still value immensely is the personal connection. So, one thing that our clients get from us is also the fact that they can pick up the phone and speak to someone, as opposed to interact with a bot. And there is no intention to de-invest from this. Also, because there are certain things that we all fare well that can be solved by AI, but at the moment you can choose between speaking to a human or not. Again, if you are, depends also on which generation do you belong to. If you're under 20, you don't want to speak to anybody, but this is a different story. But our clients are not in that, are not in the bracket. I think the personal connection is still like an immense selling point of our client interaction. But yes, okay, but on the other hand, they really, no, just to get back to the point, they value and expect it, because like I can see, for example, they attend a conference and after they leave the conference, we send them the presentations of each and every meeting they participated to, because we have tracked their journey through various digital tools. We know which room they were in, and we are able to send them a personalized stack of material that is relevant for what they actually express interest in. Whilst a few years ago, we would have probably never been able to track them and send them probably 10 days after the full stack of documents of each and every meeting that took place at the conference.
Yeah, and that's interesting, isn't it? Because that kind of personalization, I mean, that's a digital to physical, like personalization. That's almost becoming the expectation now, isn't it? That if you go to a conference, you're going to have that level of tailored follow-up to your needs and to your your interests. So that's almost becoming that's becoming baked in to our expectations as you. And consumers, that we get that level of personalization.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It'd be great to. We've had a fantastic conversation around AI, and just kind of to bring it round to, I guess, just to the end of a conversation is for the new generation that's coming in. What advice do you have for them? Coming in, and if there's one thing that you would leave the next generation of digital leaders coming in, what advice would that be?
Life advice, professional advice. No, never stop learning. No, never stop learning. That's a key advice I would give to everybody. Like, make sure that your diet. It's a diet of learning and new challenges, because that's the only way that you can grow. And I think what is really essential is to nurture a growth mindset. And I definitely would advise them to apply this to the workplace, but also thinking slightly more holistically, it's also the mindset that makes you a happier and more balanced person in life. So and again, they and me as well, at the end of the day, even if I don't have the brain of a 20 years old, but they are in a fantastic place where nothing is non-accessible. If you think about 20 plus years ago, your socioeconomic background could potentially prevent you from accessing certain books, certain sources, certain, the physical proximity. If you were living in a big city, you had access to immensely more opportunities than if you were living in a more remote part of the world. Now these barriers are no longer there. So, there are no excuses not to
No
dive into
excuses, absolutely.
whatever. The only challenge, and this is like a never going challenge also, if I think about myself, is also how do you select? Because you have literally the Amazon of knowledge. It's also how do you go to the right places? How do you access curated content? How do you separate the low quality from the high quality? And I'm afraid to say that it's still something that you can access through paid platforms. So,
Yes.
if you think about, I don't know, The Economist and
Yes.
their content, their podcast, etc.,
Yes.
you have a curated, balanced, authoritative content there. Cannot be said the same about a lot of people who just publish content on Substack or whichever medium you decide to consume your news on.
I think that's a really like key that's a really like key aspect of what's happening right now. That because all of this content is so accessible, this knowledge is so accessible, as you say, you organizations like the Economist, you almost buying the ability to for what's not in the Economist. It's what they keep out of the Economist that's really, really key. You're just it's the reduction of content just to its core, to the really, really important stuff, and it's the filtering out of noise that I think the Economist does really, really well. I'm a huge fan
It's the curatorial part. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. Well, Alessandra, thank you so much for being on our podcast today. It's been absolutely wonderful speaking with you, and I can imagine anyone being in your team would be very lucky to be there to work with such an inspirational leader. So thank you very much for being on Digital Transformation Survivors this morning.
No, thank you. Thank you very much for the conversation and for inviting me in the first place, Julian. So I hope we stay in touch and maybe have this conversation in a few years' time and see where we land.
Let's do that, Alessandra. Let's see how things have changed, and also let's have a follow-up conversation on the philosophical side of AI, because I think that would be a whole conversation right on its own.
Okay, then. Wonderful. Thank you so much.